Hello, bonsoir. Good afternoon to everybody that listening to this show. I barely can hear myself. Can you add me,
Can you hear
adjust my
me?
volume a little bit,
This
please?
one?
Uh, now, seems like,
I don't know which one is yours.
yeah, go ahead. Yes, okay. Much better. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. And my name is Abaki Petion, and we are here and to talk about voting and election issue that we feel great in importance for all of us. So we have our co-host CJ Delva, and go ahead, CJ, and
Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be here, to be on this show. I want to thank Mr. Bakuk for this show, and I want to thank everybody who's going to be listening.
we have a special guest, as you can see, and then we will introduce her in a few minutes. So our objective is not to force you to vote for her, but to encourage, and persuade you to take a stand and take action on issue in order to better educate the public on various important issue and concern tonight. Voting is the topic for tonight. And welcome you. I'm not gonna say your name, and then should I say your name?
By all means.
So we have our special guest, which is Miss Megan Outen. She's a city council member, and then now she's running for mayor of the city of Salisbury. So welcome, Miss Megan. So what do you have for us here tonight?
Oh, thank you so much for the lovely invitation, and thank you all again for this opportunity to connect. I really appreciate it. So, as you mentioned, I am a candidate running for mayor, and tonight we're just going to, as you mentioned, it was perfectly put, we're just going to talk about the importance of local elections and why you should be getting out there and being engaged. I've said this all the time throughout my time on the campaign trail. The most important elections you can ever vote in are your local elections.
So before we get to the nitty gritty of things, I have a couple questions. What happened when you don't vote in your local election?
When you don't vote,
What's the consequence?
you're not seeing your voice represented at the city level. The representatives that you elect into office are the representatives that are meant to be there for your voice. So when you don't participate in the process, you are ultimately silencing yourself. By voting, you can make sure that you are seeing projects that you want to see in your community, programs that you want to see to support the youth. You get to develop and design the city that you want to see just by coming out and voting.
So thank you, Miss Megan. That is very important for all of us to participate and take part in the local election. Not only local election, but local election is very very important. So that's where you live, and then that's if you don't vote, anybody gonna take action and for you.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, in that regard, and Miss Megan, we also want to say thank you to Mr. Delva, who's an advocate for the Haitian community as well, and not to say the whole, immigrant community. He's been trying his best, to see how the immigrant community can be integrated into the greater community. So, our first question for you: why and how did you get into special local politics, sitting as a council member and running now for mayor?
Yes, that's a question I get asked often. A lot of people look at me and they go, "How did someone as young as you get involved in local politics?" And really, it goes back a
Oh,
year.
by the way, remember what you were saying. So I know women don't want to give their age. You say you don't.
I will. I think it's a proud thing to say for myself. So I'm 30 years old, running for
yeah.
mayor of Salisbury. And I see a lot of people look at that and they go, "Oh, well, that's a little young." But we need that next generation involved. We talk about the importance of local elections, but the importance also comes with getting that next generation involved. And so I want to help bring that next generation into the folds of local government, give them a reason to come out and vote. And I think by starting to see that next generation take that leadership mantle, we're going to see a lot of those younger voters get more engaged. So I decided to throw my hat in last cycle for Wicomico County Council at Large, and I was a nobody, come out of nowhere candidate.
Right.
And I think I surprised a lot of people with the determination and the grassroots efforts I was willing to bring to the race. I was out there every single day in every district, door knocking, and connecting with residents at a level that many residents hadn't seen in many years. And it was something that I saw resonate in the community, that there was this desperate need to have that hands-on engagement from their local leaders. So I lost that race by a couple votes, but I always joke in the process of losing that race, I won the people. And I won the support and acknowledgement of a lot of the local leaders that are backing me in my race today because they saw just how much work I was willing to put into this race. So I lost the race, but my track record stood really tall. I was a hands-on, very engaged, ready to get out there type of candidate. And then our former mayor, Jacob Day, was appointed to Department of Housing by Governor Moore. And that started a domino effect of our interim mayor, Jack Heath, stepped in, a position opened at the city council, and I was encouraged by a number of community members to step in and say, you've shown us that your track record shows us that you're willing to be committed. You should really look into this. And so I've been on the city council now for about a year, and it's been a phenomenal journey. I've been hands-on with a lot of the issues facing our community right now. A lack of affordable housing, a lot of the crime concerns, making sure that our youth feel supported. I'm in the middle of that, working on those projects on a regular basis. And so when the mayoral election came around, I was looking at candidates to kind of rally behind. And to be frank, I was struggling to find a candidate that I felt was going to represent all of Salisbury as a whole. That was my reason for running for county, was to have a candidate that was willing to represent everyone at large. And so I stepped into the race to be that candidate, to represent every single resident there.
Thank you for your answers. And nous voulons dire avec chaque monde qui a d'émission ça là, nous pas de problème ou carrelé en créole ou poser question, n'a passer question là pour vous. So nous penser faire comme ça c'est pour sauver temps parce que yo gon l'autre événement yo pour aller pas bien temps pour nous faire translation et me penser CJ tout les même les capable en gros les capable ba ou et comme a dit on revue de ça dit et so far CJ m'a connait seconde révision déjà.
Yes, so far première question qui est posée, so I'm going to translate what you was just saying, just summarize it. Première question qui est posée, c'est que monsieur Abaki te demandé candidature et c'est pour qui ça que même d'aller pour magistrat, il expliquer des parcours li et côté qu'elle était un city council woman. Après ça, et de là étant, il venu, il poser candidature pour magistrat, qu'on y a là, il dit, et il pensait qu'on y a là, il pensait qu'on pile espace qu'il a rempli comme un jeune monde qui était entré dans la politique comme ça capable et comme ça pour être plus jeune intégré dans la politique. En gros résumé, c'est tout par ça.
Merci CJ. Well, thank you CJ for the interpreting. Now, Miss Megan, what is the challenges or obstacle running the campaign as a young woman since Mayor Tillman?
You're right. You kind of nailed it on the head. There's a lot of trust to rebuild. I think people see my age has been a barrier, obviously. They want to make sure that I am genuinely taking a comprehensive look at the issues of the city at large. And so I've surrounded myself with, I call them industry experts. I make sure that I've connected with community leaders and business leaders and every person from every walk of life to really get a comprehensive understanding of the issues. And outside of that, on top of that, the track record of being engaged. So I think that is a fundamental part of my campaign, is showing them that I'm willing to be the neighborhood walking mayor that I want to see for this city. I want you to be able to walk up to me. I want there to be a nice open door policy. And I think Jake Day did a phenomenal job of opening that door for residents. I just want to see that continued.
Definitely. And Miss Megan is here with us tonight, and I hope all of you understand this opportunity is open to any candidate and who wants to come to Radio Oasis and then to expose yourself or to sell your program, your vision to the immigrant community, especially the Haitian community, which is it's after the Spanish the largest here in the Delmarva Peninsula, especially in Salisbury, Maryland. So the opportunity extend to all of you who wants to come here and then talk to the community. So knowing that you have received several high-profile endorsements, what does that mean to you, and how will you leverage from that to win this election?
Sure. So we can walk through my endorsements real quick. And I was immensely proud to have received this support and backing. So we have Councilwoman Shaney Shields from Wicomico County Council. We have Councilman Josh Hastings. Our Board of Education representatives, Bonnie Ennis and David Plotz. I'm endorsed by our local firefighters union, IAFF, Local 4246. And I am also endorsed by ASME, which is our local government workers. To me, these are, and Sierra Club. So all of these mean an immense amount to me. More importantly, the community leaders mean a lot to me. The fact that they share a vision with me. They see the potential of this city. They know just how far we've come as a community and the importance of moving the city forward still. So when I hear that, Shaney stands behind me and Josh and Bonnie and David, they are elected officials in their own capacity. So I know that they carry with them a whole other side of the community that comes with them. So that meant a lot to have their support, especially Councilman Shaney Shields. She has been a longtime leader of this community, both at the city and at the county. So that meant a lot to know that someone who has been serving her community for as long as she has really sees the potential in the next generation as well.
CJ, can you clarify a little bit for the audience, please?
Yes, yes. There have been a lot of questions. So, première question, c'est qui challenge, ces questions, ça, M. Abaki t'a posé, qui challenge Megan Jean pendant la campagne là, et il te répond qu'il a une connexion avec plusieurs autres leaders, il est connecté avec la communauté, et il a plus besoin de relations avec les gens qui étaient dans la zone là. Après ça, il a parlé de une liste, groupe de gens qui endossent lui comme candidat.
So, whoever listening, you can dial 410-449-2944. You can dial that number if you have a question for Miss Megan, so you can do that. Ou ka composer 410-449-2944. Et si vous avez une question pour Miss Megan, candidat pour magistrat et dans la ville Salisbury, Maryland. Now, I have two big questions for you. What is your vision for Salisbury and how will you implement it?
My vision for Salisbury is a Salisbury where everyone can continue to call this place home. So I guess for a background, and if it's easier for you to translate, I can pause in between too.
Okay.
Make it a little easier for you all.
Go ahead. I'll do that.
So when I was growing up here in Salisbury, I remember a time when we were leaving in droves. And there was not a lot of pride in staying in this community at all. And now we have a Salisbury. I look around and I see a Salisbury that has really transformed. We have opportunities for our young professionals and our youth. We're building housing for our residents. And more importantly, our businesses are no longer just surviving, they're actually thriving now. I'll be honest, I don't know if I could have continued to call Salisbury home if it wasn't for the former leadership that came before me. There was just not enough opportunities for our young professionals to stay here and thrive. And that's the Salisbury I want to continue. One where you can raise your family and build a business. And just enjoy your life here in Salisbury. I want that for so many residents. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to be pushing for more affordable housing initiatives. And I want more incentives for our smaller mom and pop shops. And then the most important is I want the projects that we bring here in the city, the infrastructure plans, to really reflect the needs, the real needs of the community.
Thank you for answering our questions. And like I said, those of you who are listening and want to ask Miss Megan a few questions, so you can go ahead and do so. And CJ, I don't know if you have a question yourself. And
Yes, I mean I have a lot of questions, but it's a lot. It's a lot of them you already answered. One of the questions I have, um, back then I would say 10 years ago, um, um, the 10 years ago the crime in Salisbury was very wised up. Um, the last time I had done some research on it, it kind of decreased. So what is your plan on terms of keep Salisbury safer?
Yeah.
For-
So I've already thankfully been working pretty closely to kind of tackle that on the city council. My district was having some concerns with a lot of the smaller crimes we were seeing, and then on the overall, I mean, as a county as a whole, as you've seen, Jamie Dykes issued a statement about the crime concerns that she's seeing.
Yes.
So I went straight to the source. Sat down with our current chief, Dave Mindshine, to talk through what he was seeing. I talked with Jamie Dykes to hear what she's seeing in the courtrooms, and I've talked to a couple of the judges in the area just to get a holistic perspective. I've done ride-alongs just to see just the type of crimes and the concerns that we're seeing in the community. The ride-along was really great because it gave me an opportunity to see the resources and partnerships we have with our police department as well.
Yes, yes.
But I would love to make sure that we continue doing a multifaceted approach to crime, because the type of crime we're seeing here in the community is not one type of crime. I mean, we're seeing a rise in gun violence, but we're also seeing a lot of youth crisis happening right now. So really, I don't see this as only just tackling it from the crime and putting all of our resources into the police department, which we do need to make sure that they're well funded,
Correct.
well paid, but also partnering with our county partners, our schools,
Yes.
to make sure that the children don't get lost, because it's been a long time since COVID, but we're still seeing the repercussions of it and the trickle down. And the biggest impact COVID still has on us today is how it's impacted our youth.
Yes.
And we see that in the way that the classroom actions are having, the crime that we're seeing in the classroom and outside the classroom. There's just a gap in the community for them, and I want us to rebuild that at the city level.
Yes. I also have a second question. I don't know if you want me to go answer,
ahead.
because
Go
this
ahead.
question is very important to me too. It seems like in Salisbury, it's hard to keep a big corporation. Like every time we have big corporation, they end up shut down. They end up transferred to different state, different state. Yeah. So what's your plan to bring more corporation, big corporation? Not only bring them, but to stay in Salisbury.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, when I talk about surrounding myself with industry leaders and experts, when I first decided to run, I sat down with Dave Ryan from Salisbury Economic Development Authority just to talk about what he's seeing. I know what I was seeing, but I wanted the confirmation of the type of business concerns that we were seeing in the community, and what initiatives we already had at the city. And me and him, we walked through some of the thoughts that I had, and really I see, and he agreed with me here, that the only way for industry to thrive here in Salisbury are with incentives and initiatives.
Right.
We need to make our market more appealable.
Visible.
Visible is a
Yeah.
big word. Visible and appealable, because
Right.
we're battling with an international market now. Companies now have the choice of going really anywhere. So you have to get us on the radar, but then you also have to give them a reason to come here. And I think we've done a really good job with those types of incentives. I know with Dave Ryan and the Salisbury Development Economic Authority, they're working on a couple additional programs. Right now, they have those shovel-ready sites
Yes.
that help, and we've been able to get a number of bigger companies moving down here just because we provided those sites for them. I know in the coming month, I can't say it now, but it'll be an
This
exciting
call may
announcement.
be recorded or transcribed.
That's all. The
We will. We are having a phenomenal development coming here to the city that I think the broader community is going to be thrilled about when we're talking about bigger industries and what they can support, and a
good.
company that can do 100+ jobs for the community. That's huge for this area.
Well, you're listening to this interview with Miss Megan, the candidate for Salisbury City, the mayor candidate for the city of Salisbury. And I think now we have somebody on the line probably
7:30.
has a question. So you are welcome to this show. Go ahead and ask your question, please.
Hello guys, bonsoir, comment nous y?
Nous pas plus mal ou même bonsoir.
Nous, là, on a continué à célébrer la vie malgré tout. Alors, nous disons merci pour chose ça qu'on a fait, chose spéciale qu'on a fait après-midi. Hein. Moi, T'as poser une question, qui était capable de, avec un candidat qui est là pour le moment. Euh, bon, nous connaissons politique pas bien sentiment là-dedans, euh, mais nous croyons que yon moun vini avec une vision pour capable changer une communauté ou bien pour capable aider communauté hein, vin gen l'autre figure comme Miss Morgan Miss Morgan comment lui-même lui ouais communauté hein, dans 2 ans ou bien 4 ans, il pourra le faire pendant la magistrate communauté hein, pour capable de plus de développement pour monde qui gagnent l'âge que yo pas de opportunité pour y aller dans l'université, yo pas de opportunité pour y aller dans community college, pas gagner yon l'école qui en dit yon votek que moun n'a pas qu'à aller dans high school pour capable aider moun ça joindre une meilleure éducation pour communauté à capable avancer avec nous.
You want to take that?
Yeah, so basically the question is what you going to do in terms of like people who need technical school. On summarize, that's what he's asking.
And then the other piece to it is how do you see the city as you're gonna be leading the city?
Oh yeah.
I know you guys are always optimistic about your your election, but as if you win the mayoral race, so as you're leading the city, how do you see it in 2 years from now? Beside the other piece.
So the question about VOTEC schools, and then how do I see this city in 2 years?
Yes.
Perfect. I love this question because one of my biggest reasons for running for county was because I wanted to see more opportunities for our young professionals. I was from a generation where it was college or nothing. You were not succeeding if you didn't go to college. And in the process, we lost a number of opportunities for our students and our youth to really find the career pathways that are meant for them. We have some great programs here in the school system already with Parkside High School. And Warwick has really extended a new program on continued education for a lot of those trades initiatives.
Right.
At the city, I would love to find opportunities for us to extend career pathway programs for the students to really get a good idea before they step out into the real world what they could potentially do. I know we just recently at the city passed a program that we're bringing to the Truett Street Community Center and the Newton Community Center, where it's a STEM lab. So it's a $30,000 STEM lab that was donated to us by the Cal Ripken Foundation. And this gives us the opportunity to showcase students who typically are not going to be exposed to this type of pathway an opportunity to get really hands-on with a STEM facility. So I'm really excited about that. That's going to be coming online in the next 2 months. I would love to expand those types of programs because I really think that if we want our students and our youth to stay in the area, we need to showcase to them
Yes,
those types of
yes,
pathways.
That's very good.
And this kind of question that the listener just asked, I usually ask to the people I know that can actually take a decision on that, especially county council or people running for the board. And there used to be in the 90s, there used to be that VOTEC on the west side. For me personally, I feel like I can put it that way. They just take an opportunity away from the low income and in minority community. They put it on the other side of town where you have, the more affluent people live. So this way you have a lot of people here, they could just walk to that center and learn something and more
Exactly.
opportunity, but they take it away. So I feel it's like they rob them out of a good opportunity. And I can see a model like that in Delaware. You have Sussex Tech. You have different open vocational school where adult can go. This one here is just only student. But in Deltec, I mean, of Sussex Techs and different other in Delaware,
Yeah.
adult can go and they open the opportunity for everybody. But that's why I didn't ask you that question because I know that may not be your.
I'm passionate about it, but I wouldn't have direct oversight of it. But
Right.
it's something I'm very passionate about because if we want people to continue calling Salisbury home, we have to show them those career pathway options. And that only happens with continued education.
Yes, we would like to see something like that. There was something I spoke to a few people like Mayor Heath, and then I know there was the last time we interviewed Chief Dawkins, and then asked them a few questions about the immigrant community. So what do you feel about the immigrant community, and especially our Haitian community? So there's a lot of positive feedback. I know in the 90s the community it was terrible in crime. And then every time you heard something happen in a Church Street neighborhood, somebody gets shot, something happened. Now you see a lot of these immigrants taking over, and then they rent houses, they bought houses, and then now you have the crime went down
Decrease,
tremendously.
yeah.
Yes, went down tremendously. So now it's probably starting rising up. But I mean, it was
Welcome to
way
Radio
higher.
Oasis.
Bienvenue sur Radio Oasis.
Yeah, it was way higher.
This call may be
Sometime-
recorded or transcribed.
Sometime in the 90s, they would probably not as close as Baltimore, but I mean, it was very bad. And then now with the immigrant that come to the community, they kind
help a
of
lot.
bring it down a lot. So now, what is your take about the immigrant community? I have a big question to ask you, and it's 5:40. So based on crime and what do you think you're gonna be doing? Because we know a lot of immigrants being victimized.
Welcome to Radio Oasis.
because
Bienvenue sur Radio Oasis.
because they are just immigrant. Because they
This
don't
call may be
speak-
recorded or
becau-
transcribed.
Because they don't speak the language, and then people, sometimes they get like me. I went to Bed at High. Get bullied. Some get jumped just because they are immigrant, just because they don't speak enough English, just because they dress differently, just because they just get victimized because of who they are. So what are you gonna be doing? I know still school, and then you may not be the right person to do anything about it, but I know your influence can be very powerful.
No, absolutely. I mean, so like you mentioned, I don't have anything direct, but it's all a partnership here on the Eastern Shore. So last week I met with Dr. Stauffer to talk about how the city can work together as a big partner to help support the students. And a big portion of our conversation was actually talking about the growing number of non-English speaking students. Our student population has remained practically the same for the last 20 years. The only population that continues to rise are students where English is they're learning it as a second language. That's the population that continues, and with that comes additional resources that they need. But we're still handling with the same number of resources, but with a growing population of students that need additional help and support, and who honestly might want some more support in their home life as well, or in the broader community. So Dr. Stauffer and I talked about a number of ways where we could bring initiatives to the city, utilizing the community centers that I mentioned to help them with after-school activities, where they can continue some of that, and help rebuild some of the community. Because like you've mentioned, a lot of the time I think the concerns we're seeing with students are really just tied to them feeling disconnected from the community at large. So
it seems like we have a little trouble with
Welcome to Radio Oasis.
Bienvenue sur Radio Oasis.
Great. And
This call may be recorded or transcribed.
okay, so my question for you, CJ, I don't know if you have any question or
Yeah,
anything
I
like
mean,
that, or summarize anything.
What I want to summarize what Miss Megan had said is the question was question c'est que comment que li ouais immigrant dans zone là li même plus monsieur Abba qui te dit comme ça et bon même si c'est on va l'école dans l'école lié but avec relation le gars avec l'autre monde et ça peut-être apporter résultat en termes que j'ai regardé immigrants qui dans zone là j'ai habillé des cultures tout ça li même il dit bon ici même c'est pas domaine ni son question de relation yo tout là bon ici à toute institution yo censé dans relation et même pas influence li par programme qu'il a metté et programme after school dans Church Street là avec l'autre côté l'autre communauté santé qu'il a parlé de ça. So, en résumé c'est ça on dit que n'a gain pour kembe ti moun yo en termes de actifs, but te ka utiliser influence li pour te solution avec problème ça.
Bon, nous gagnons l'autre auditeur qui souligne là, et bienvenue dans l'émission, hein, et puis on est capable de poser question pour vous.
Nous avons dit bonsoir avec Radio Oasis
Bonsoir.
et nous saluons PDG Abaki et Fodel Vano qui a fait un bel travail.
Thank you. Merci.
Et puis nous saluons tous les membres ou bien participants qui ont écouté. Et nous saluons Madame candidate Latou.
Yes.
Donc, moi, j'ai une question. Et puisque c'est une opportunité pour nous faire question ça passer, nous profitons de l'occasion. Hein. Pendant que nous voyons la vie a changé, nous avons dit tout partout, mais nous avons parlé pour le local Salisbury. Hein. Nous voyons tout le bagage à monter dans le troisième ciel. Nous avons pris. Mais pour y travailler, il tel qu'il est. Notamment, je demander madame s'il réussit, qui plan rien pour ça.
All right. The question is, he said he know that all the price is going up everywhere. So the job did not give people ways. So what's your plan in terms of that? Because everything right now is overpriced.
So what was the question again? Was it about the jobs?
About the job ways.
And about the plan you have while, you know,
If you
everything,
want,
the inflation, everything is rising up. So what are you going to be doing for that? Especially, you know, people not getting paid enough, they're not getting raised, and then while the
Yeah.
inflation is going up.
Yeah, it's a multifaceted solution to that. One way, which we did at the city this year, we're bringing everyone's salary up to par at the city level, which has been immensely important for us retaining good quality, talented workers. Additionally, it's why I'm so passionate about bringing in affordable housing, because you're right, the cost of everything's going up. Housing's one of them. I want to make sure that we have, at the first basic level should be affordable housing, nice affordable housing for our residents.
Yeah.
And then the initiatives that we talked about a couple minutes back, making sure that we're bringing in industries that can afford to pay people a good living wage, because they deserve that. And that's how we make sure that people get to enjoy a good quality of life here in Salisbury.
Correct. Yeah, en résumé, c'est que pour pouya, il connaît Kai qu'on y a là vraiment pour y monter. Sous ça fait la parler que pour la battre pour venir avec plus Kai que tout le monde capable gagner accès avec. Et deuxièmement pour job là, so j'en ai continué de parler d'aller dans la question job là, c'est venir avec le gros job qui capable payer mon yo, combien de payer mon yo parce que nous méritons pour payer nous plus.
No.
Ok, donc, écrit un petit annonce. Bon haïtien, on a dit qui peut dire, il était venu dans l'autozone pour lui. Et nous pas connaître n'importe qui nous a dit qui peut dire, si l'absent des émissions, nous avons dit, que dans l'autozone, dans l'avion.
Ah ben, ou pas gen non moun nan?
Pas songer non moun.
Ok, ah ben, pas un problème. Merci en pile, et puis, je passe le message là passé.
D'accord, merci.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Since you was talking about the house crisis, I know you mentioned it. So do you have a plan? Because several places I went by, I see a lot of new apartment building, but they're not affordable. Like
No, they're not.
they're very expensive. Right now, like he was saying, you got job, they not give people ways and stuff like that. So what's your plan in terms of bring affordable house that people can be afforded?
Oh, we need to make sure that we're partnering with the right developers. So we do have a developer that's come into the area that specializes in just affordable housing. That's what we need to be making sure is we're getting good faith partners who specialize in that type of affordable housing. I will say we do have a housing crisis, and it is a spectrum of housing.
Right.
It's the high end to the middle to the everything. But to me, my priority is the affordable. So that type of partnership, immensely important. Those initiatives are what bring in those affordable housing developers, like we mentioned. So that's why I'm a big proponent of Here's Home. That's why I've been a big proponent of Horizon. We need those types of initiatives to bring in that type of development, but also making sure that when we sign on to these partnerships, that they're good faith partners with the community. I'd love to make sure that when the development comes, that they're bringing in more than just housing. A number of communities throughout the state make sure that, they have community benefits to the project. So making sure, have them invest in a park while they're developing these projects, or making sure that they're adding something else to the community besides just the housing.
Yeah, it's a possible way. It's a plan from rent to own the house. Is a plan on place.
I'd love to bring more of that. We have had initiatives in the past. It would be fantastic. Baltimore City just actually passed some legislation that encourages rent to home ownership. And I'd love to see how we could bring that to the city. I think there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
I'm also been really big about when we talk about keeping our teachers, our emergency workers, all the talent that we need in this community, we need more incentives for them to live here. So in the past, the city used to have initiatives for city workers where if you worked at the city, you would be able to, there'd be an incentive for homeownership pathway. We don't have that anymore. And I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that it also extended to teachers. I'd love to see that extended to nurses and frontline workers, because we're seeing these leaders leave the area because they can't afford to call this place home.
Correct.
So we need to find other ways where we can make them stick around, because we want that talent.
I have two more questions before the time is running out. Now, how do you, or what do you have in your program or plan to help, especially the minority and the immigrant community, to get access to fundings? A lot of time we see, a lot of these people, they are in business. There's probably land developer, real estate, or whatever business they may be in. But sometimes when there's some fundings available, there are too much obstacle. There are too much hurdles to get access to the fundings.
Yeah.
So what would you do if the city receiving some funding to get these people access to fundings?
Yeah, and the first barrier, honestly, to me, is just language. So my first and foremost is I'd love to expand our business development group that we have at the city, and making sure that those local businesses have a direct contact with the city. I mentioned Baltimore City already, but they have a great track record of how they're engaging with local minority-owned businesses and making sure that they have an extra leg up in the world, because it's hard for small businesses to really get a leg up nowadays. So working with our city, I'd love to expand on a community outreach coordinator that is specifically focused towards supporting those types of businesses. And that way you all have a point of contact of the city to go to, and who can be a regular exchange of communications.
That's good.
And then more importantly, I don't think our city community centers are utilized enough. That would be a great place for us to drop off literature materials that you could just swing by and grab and know, all right, well, a grant just came up, phenomenal, I'll share this with the community at large. We need more of that. I think we've heavily relied on social media too much, and social media is a phenomenal tool,
Yes.
but we need to do a lot more in-person proactive engagement with the community.
And then I think one of the things that you need to do, the city probably need to be more active on that too. So we have a local radio station which can, not only they have a social media presence, but they have a local presence as well.
Yeah.
So that can dissipate the
Extend the
information,
message,
to the
Yeah.
people. That's something, that's relationship. I know sometimes we receive some information, but it's not really enough. So you mentioned language. It's not only language. Sometimes it's the application. It's the process. It's what's required of you to get access to the funding. So it's more than just language, because it's not only to the immigrant, but it's the minority as well. Because they're not already established, and then they need
Yeah.
some sort of
Mentor almost.
yes.
Yes, I love mentorship programs have worked phenomenally in other municipalities. My background is in doing that. So my job, I work with the Oceanic Network, and I help minority women-owned businesses and veteran-owned businesses get involved in the supply chain. And my job is to connect them with those types of mentors, people who have had long-standing relationships in the industry. That's a big barrier, because most of jobs is networking. It's it comes from generational knowledge, and most of the businesses that we are seeing here in the city are first generation business owners who don't have a lot of that background or knowledge. So I'm hoping to take some of my professional experience working with those smaller minority owned businesses, women owned businesses, and bringing a program to the city that will help with that and give you all the resources that you need to understand what's being asked of you. Like, what are all going to be all the requirements? And if you sign up for this grant, well, what are you actually signing up for? What is the commitment beyond just receiving the money? Or what other processes or what certifications do you have to get? There's so many different nuances that someone says, oh, this is a phenomenal opportunity, but then they realize that it's a 5-month application process, and they feel like a little lost and a little overwhelmed, and I think a program would be really helpful.
Exactly. Not only what you have to get to the to get resources, but how can we help you to get whatever you need?
Yes.
That's important as well. So you're watching this show with the mayoral candidate Megan Auten, so in Radio Oasis. So you're welcome to call and ask question. Now, my question, biggest question is racial equity, or we can say lack thereof, if we can put it that way. That's a statement by the Lower Shore or Eastern Shore United Way of the Lower Eastern Shore. They said United Way of the Lower Eastern Shore recognize that systematic racism and oppression negatively impact our Lower Shore community and result in disparities in health, education, financial stability. Every individual is entitled to freedom from these systematic forces that have historically marginalized them and limited their opportunity. So now Salisbury is over 33,000 over in population. That's the demographic. And we can see from that 48% are white. And then the rest of them are minority, mixed with immigrant and everything. Now, when we go back to, for me as an immigrant, I have been living in Salisbury for over 30 years. This is a question for, I would say a lot of, or most of the immigrant would ask, or minority would ask. We have seen a lot of changes and growth happening in Salisbury as the city now is 48%, as we mentioned, white, and then that's mean the minority now become the majority. So now, the rest of the people we already mentioned feel like they are not included in the decision-making process in the local government institution, or these are proportionally not balanced based on hiring. And how will you bring balance to the racial inequity that I know you are advocating for so strongly?
Yeah, that is a big question and an important one, because it's something that I mentioned at a past forum at the NAACP forum. You're absolutely correct. Our leadership at the city level does not reflect the diversity that we have here in the city limits. And one thing that I've been a big proponent of, at least at the city, is how do we get a lot of this quality talent that exists in the city already to the upper management and the director's positions to reflect that spectrum of people that we have living here. And a lot of times the excuse that I hear back from other people are oh, well, these are the most qualified individuals. That's why they're directors. And I'm like, okay, that's great. We want the most qualified people, but let's identify what barriers are stopping these people from being qualified. What's stopping an average resident? And so my hope is to work on workforce development pathways at the city. That way, everyday workers can advance themselves with continued education, and then they can become the most qualified candidate. I think that's something we need to be very mindful of, is that there are a lot of hidden barriers for a lot of individuals. A lot of people here in the city are first-generation college students or first-generation high school graduates, even. And we need to be mindful of that when we talk about barriers and how we get the most qualified talent. What can we offer them in the process of getting them there? So at the city level, I know that is my hope, is to work on some workforce development pathways for our workers, get them the qualifications that they need so that they can be the most qualified person there. Additionally, on top of that, I am hoping to, so at the city level, we've filled a couple of positions this year, and we do national calls. And that to me is a great way for us to bring in a diverse group of talent from across the country, and making sure that we are really picking a qualified person, not just someone, a friend of a friend or someone So I have full faith in our HR team and our staff, and I know if I were to get into office, that would be a major priority of mine, is making sure that when we are bringing in a new set of leadership, that it's really balanced and as genuinely reflective of the broader community at large, because it's a conversation that keeps coming up in almost every single conversation, every single forum I've been in. And it has a lot of ring to it. I mean, it's true for a number of years, and still to date, it is not reflective of our broader community at large.
Not only at the city, but in most of the institution, it's the same thing. So we have the UMES down the road, and then been, prepare a lot of people. I'm wondering if they're not qualified enough, or they don't seek out for these people, or go to. I know the Salisbury University mostly, it's not a minority. How can I put it? It's more like it's not an historical black college, and then mostly you see less black people there. But when you do recruitment, do you actually go to the UMES and then say, okay, we need 10 or 20 candidate for this position? Have you, no, not you, but I know, not you, but will you do something like
Yeah,
that?
we need to be, and I've mentioned this, we need to be more proactive in reaching out to the communities at large. Instead of, in the past, we have put out an application and we wait for people to apply. In reality, we need to go to various communities throughout the city and beyond and say, we want to make sure that you are part of this process. Here is some information. If you want to join our city, if you want to join this family, I would love to make sure that we're having good balanced partnerships with Salisbury University, UMES, Warwick, and the high schools, because that's how you get that good group of people in, those good candidates.
Definitely, the time is running out on us, but we have a final listener, so we give you that opportunity to ask your question.
Ok. Oui, moi, entendez toute en conversation.
I have heard about the
Est-ce
conversation.
que l'autre candidat yo, si yo gen même proposition ça yo ensemble avec ou, est-ce qu'ils sont ou ka di nan deux mots pour convaincre moi pour me capable voter ou qui différent avec l'autre candidat qui a gen même proposition ensemble avec ou, Miss Megan?
So if we know different candidate, they probably have the same proposition or different proposition than you. So tell me in two words that will convince me to vote for you.
2 words.
But it may not be literally, but something that would convince him to vote for you, to get his vote.
That's fair. I can't do it in 2 words because I love to talk, but what I will say is my track record shows that I care so much about this community. I'm from the city, born and raised in the city, and I want everyone to be proud of Salisbury, and I want them to be proud to call this place home. So my entire campaign has been about engaging with the community at large, because I think that we're a city that feels so disengaged. So if you vote for me, you're voting for a candidate that's going to continue this engagement beyond this election. I'm not just here right now and then I'm gone. I will be at your door every single week if you want me to, connecting with you, having conversations, because that's what I think our residents need to thrive. And you can hold me to that I will be the most hands-on mayor I think you'll ever see if I get in office.
Do you have a big shoes to fill?
Jake set a high bar. I will say
Yeah.
that, but I'm willing to match that. I will say, out so far to date, we've already doubled the number of doors Jake knocked in his previous race. So I mean, when you talk about a hands-on race, we have knocked nearly 10,000 doors in every single neighborhood in this city. That's how much I care about engaging with these residents. I'm out there every single day, and I still will be till November 7th.
Well, your final word before we call it quit tonight.
Just thank you all for this opportunity. These moments right here and being on this type of show, this is important. You all are engaging with the community at large, and I wish more people were passionate as much as you all are about spreading the information and just getting people re-engaged in the community. We've mentioned it already. Your local elections are some of the most important. So regardless of who you vote for, just make sure you come out and vote, because it is so important that you vote in your locals. These are the people that will be impacting your day to day.
CJ.
Yes, we want to thank you, Megan, for coming in to talk to our Haitian community. We hope to how can I say that? We hope to see you win. That's our hoping.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I can't say you win, you lose. My position is to be neutral, and what I can say to you, good luck. And it was a great opportunity for us to host you, and so as we're saying goodbye, so hopefully we'll see you next time. And We in the past usually have Mayor Day come in here and talk to the community. Hopefully that will remain the same. And so it was a pleasure to talk to you. And then Godspeed.
Thank you both so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you avec tout le monde qui a écouté l'émission. Thank you to all our listeners. So it's time to say goodbye and then talk to you soon. Have a good night.